Alaverdyan gained attention through her unique presence and growing online identity, but her sudden disappearance left many questions unanswered. Known for her work and rising influence, she seemed to be on a steady path toward success. Then, without warning, updates stopped. Fans began searching for clues, trying to understand what went wrong. Was it a personal choice, a hidden struggle, or something more unexpected? Stay with this story as the truth slowly unfolds in ways few expected. The story of Alaverdyan does not begin with fame. It begins quietly, in a space where little was known and even less was confirmed. There are no widely documented early interviews. No clear public timeline of childhood or family background. According to scattered online references, her name appears to have roots connected to Eastern Europe, possibly Armenia. But even this detail remains uncertain, with no official confirmation to support it. This lack of clear information would later become one of the most defining parts of her story. In the early stages, Alaverdyan's presence online was small, almost invisible. She did not rise overnight. There was no viral moment that pushed her into sudden recognition. Instead, her growth followed a slow and steady path. A few posts, a few interactions, then a little more attention. Over time, her name began appearing more often. It is believed that her work involved digital content or creative expression. Some observers suggest she may have been active on social media platforms, possibly sharing visuals, ideas, or niche content that spoke to a specific audience. Nothing was loud. Nothing was dramatic. And yet, something about her presence stood out. In a world filled with constant noise, her quiet approach created curiosity. People noticed the difference. Her content, while not widely documented, seemed to carry a sense of identity, a tone that felt intentional. This is often how digital personalities begin, not with massive attention but with small, consistent steps. By the late 2010s or early 2020s, her name began appearing in more search results. Online mentions increased. It was not mainstream fame, but it was enough to build recognition. With recognition comes attention. And with attention comes questions. People wanted to know more about her, where she came from, what she did outside the digital space. But answers were limited. Unlike many online personalities, Alaverdyan did not share much about her personal life. There were no detailed biographies, no verified interviews. This created a gap between her public presence and private identity. For some, this added intrigue. For others, it raised concern. Because in the digital world, visibility often comes with transparency. And when transparency is missing, speculation begins. Despite this, her growth continued. Her presence became more stable, more consistent. Observers noted that she appeared to be building something long-term, a digital identity that could evolve into a stronger platform. There was a sense of quiet ambition behind her work. She was not chasing attention. She was building something step by step. And slowly, it seemed to be working. But there was always something unusual. Even at the height of her activity, information about her remained incomplete. Key details were missing. This created an early layer of mystery that would later become central to her story. Still, nothing at this stage suggested anything was wrong. Everything appeared normal. Gradual growth, increasing interest, a rising digital presence. Then something changed. At first, it was almost unnoticeable. A missed update, a longer gap between posts, small shifts that did not seem important. But over time, these changes became harder to ignore. The consistency that once defined her presence began to fade. And for those paying close attention, it raised the first quiet question. Was this just a pause or the beginning of something more? But just as her online presence reached a turning point, subtle changes began to raise questions no one could yet answer. The change did not happen all at once. There was no announcement, no clear goodbye, just silence. At first, it seemed normal. Many online creators take breaks. Days turned into weeks. Weeks turned into months. And still nothing. Her accounts, once active, became quiet. Posts stopped appearing. No updates. No explanations. For casual viewers, this might not have meant much. But for those who followed her closely, the silence felt different. It did not feel planned. It felt sudden. Online communities began to notice. Comments started appearing under older posts. People asking simple questions. Where is she? Is she okay? At first, the questions were few. Then they grew. Discussion threads appeared across platforms. Some users tried to track her last known activity. They searched for timestamps. They looked for patterns. According to these observations, her final interactions seemed normal. There were no clear signs of distress. No warnings. And that made the silence even more confusing. Because in many cases, a sudden disappearance is preceded by change. But here, the change came after. Speculation began to spread. Some believed she chose to step away from public life. A personal decision. Others suggested something more serious. External pressure. Private struggles. But there was no evidence to confirm any of these ideas. And in the absence of facts, theories grow quickly. This is a pattern often seen in digital spaces. When a public figure disappears without explanation, the internet fills the gap with guesses. Some guesses are harmless. Others are not. In Alaverdyan's case, the lack of verified information made it difficult to separate truth from rumor. A few users claimed to have seen updates, but these claims could not be confirmed. Others pointed out that her accounts remained online. They were not deleted, just inactive. This detail added another layer to the mystery. Because if someone wanted to disappear completely, they often removed their digital presence. But here, everything remained, frozen in time. As days passed, concern grew. The tone of the discussion shifted, from curiosity to worry, because silence, when it lasts too long, begins to feel like something else, something unknown. And then small details started to surface. Fragments of information. Not enough to explain everything, but enough to change the direction of the search. As speculation grew louder, a few hidden details started to surface, but they only made the mystery deeper. As the silence continued, the search for answers began to grow more organized. This was no longer just casual curiosity. It had turned into a collective investigation. Online users started digging deeper. They revisited old posts. Screenshots were shared. Archived pages were examined carefully. Every detail mattered. People tried to build a timeline. They looked at her earliest activity and followed it step by step. Patterns were studied. When did she post the most? When did her activity slow down? These questions became important. Some users believed they noticed inconsistencies. Small things at first. Changes in posting style. Differences in tone. But without confirmed data, it was difficult to draw clear conclusions. Others focused on identity. Was Alaverdyan her real name? Or was it a digital alias? This question became central to the investigation. Because if the identity itself was unclear, then everything else became harder to verify. Searches through public records brought limited results. No strong matches. No confirmed personal profiles. This raised new questions. Had she intentionally kept her identity hidden? Or was the information simply not available online? In many cases, digital creators maintain privacy. They separate their public persona from their real life. But in this case, the separation seemed unusually strong.
Too strong, some believed.
The investigation expanded across platforms. Different communities joined in. Some tried to trace her possible location through language patterns. Others analyzed the timing of her posts, looking for time zone clues. A few claimed to identify possible regions. But these claims often conflicted with each other. One report suggested Europe. Another hinted at a different region entirely. Nothing could be confirmed. And with each new theory, confusion grew. Misinformation began to spread. This is a common risk in online investigations. When many people search at once, not all information is reliable. Some details were taken out of context. Others were simply incorrect. Still, the search continued. Because there was one thing everyone agreed on. Her disappearance did not feel normal. It did not follow a clear pattern. It did not come with an explanation. And that made people keep looking. Then, a different line of inquiry began to take shape. Instead of focusing only on identity and location, attention shifted toward something else. her work, her activity, and possibly her finances. Because sometimes the answers are not found in personal details, but in the patterns behind a person's career. But as attention turned to her financial background, unexpected patterns began to challenge everything people thought they knew. As the search for answers continued, attention began to shift in a new direction. If her identity remained unclear, perhaps her work could provide clues. People started examining her digital footprint more closely. What exactly did Alaverdyan do? And how did she earn from it? These questions became central. In the online world, financial growth often leaves traces. Brand deals, monetized content, collaborations. But in her case, those traces were limited. There were no widely confirmed partnerships. No public business records tied clearly to her name. And yet, some sources suggested she had built a modest level of success. Unverified estimates of her net worth began circulating online. Some claimed she earned through content creation. Others believed she may have been involved in private or niche projects. But none of these claims were backed by strong evidence. This created a strange contrast. On one hand, she appeared to have a growing presence. On the other, there was very little financial transparency. In most cases, online personalities leave clear signals of income streams. But here, those signals were either hidden or missing. This led to new theories. Some suggested that her work may not have been entirely public. Perhaps she was involved in projects that did not require visibility, or platforms that did not share earnings openly. Others questioned whether her influence had been overestimated. Was her presence as large as it seemed? Or was it built on a smaller, more controlled audience? These questions made the investigation more complex. Because now it was not just about where she went. It was also about who she really was in the digital space. There was also the possibility of external pressure. In the world of online content, sudden stops can sometimes be linked to burnout or personal challenges. Sometimes creators step away quietly, but usually there are signs. A final message, a hint, something to explain the absence. In this case, there was nothing. No statement. No farewell. Just silence. This made her situation stand out, because even in cases of private withdrawal, a trace is often left behind. Here, there was no clear trace. The deeper people looked, the more uncertain everything became. Her career path, her income, even her level of influence, all of it felt incomplete. And yet, one question remained stronger than all the others. Where was she now? Despite the theories, the data, and the investigation, there was still no confirmed answer. And that absence became the most unsettling part of the story. Because when someone disappears without explanation, the unknown becomes the loudest detail. Despite all the theories and data, her current location remains unclear, and that is where the mystery becomes most unsettling. Time passed, but the questions did not fade. If anything, they became stronger. Because the longer the silence continued, the more unusual it felt. People kept searching for updates, new posts, recent sightings, anything that could confirm where Alaverdyan was. But reliable information remained difficult to find. There were no verified reports confirming her location, no official statements, no clear signs of return. Some online users claimed they had seen activity linked to her name, but these claims were never confirmed. And in many cases, they were quickly dismissed as misunderstandings or false leads. This is a common pattern in cases like this. When answers are missing, even the smallest hint can appear significant. But not every hint leads to truth. Some began to consider a different possibility. What if her disappearance was intentional? In the digital world, stepping away is not unusual. Many individuals choose to leave quietly. They close one chapter and begin another, away from public view. This possibility cannot be ruled out. But in most cases, even quiet departures leave subtle signs. A gradual decline, a final message, something that prepares the audience. Here, that pattern was missing. The shift was sudden, and that made it harder to understand. Others believed that something unexpected may have happened behind the scenes. A personal situation, a private challenge. But without confirmation, These ideas remain only possibilities. The truth is, the available information does not provide a clear answer. Her online presence still exists in fragments. Old posts remain. Past activity can still be seen. But everything is frozen in time, like a story that stopped in the middle. For those who followed her journey, this lack of closure feels incomplete. There is no ending, no final chapter, just an open question. And that is what makes this story different, because it is not only about a person disappearing. It is about the absence of explanation, a gap that has not been filled. Over time, attention may fade. New stories will take its place. But for some, the mystery will remain. A quiet question that was never answered. Where is Ellen Alaverdyan? And until that answer is confirmed, the story remains unfinished. And until a clear answer appears, the story of Ellen Alaverdyan remains a mystery that refuses to be solved. The story leaves behind more questions than answers, showing how little can truly be known in the digital world. If you found this journey intriguing, consider subscribing for more real stories that uncover the mysteries behind online lives.